Hi, welcome to Soulstream Media. I am Stacy St. Clair, your host today. My special guest, as always, returning to Soulstream Media is Candice Claire. Candice is a board certified health and wellness coach, a Chopra Center certified instructor in meditation and Ayurvedic lifestyle, certified aromatherapist, yoga health coach, and she's the creator of Body Bliss, an online course teaching Ayurvedic lifestyle practices. This is passionate and curious learner in the field of purely tried and true ancient wisdom practices from the system of Ayurveda, the oldest and still relevant healing system on the planet. She's learned it, she's tried it, she's practiced it, and she knows it works. Welcome back, Candice.
Great to be back with you, Stacy. And I'm looking forward to talking about something that is a little different than Ayurveda, but it fits so perfectly within that system. And I'll explain why. And it's something that I've recently added into my practice. So I'm excited.
Wonderful. We can't wait to hear what
Yeah.
you have for us today.
So do you want me to just start with saying a little bit about homeopathy?
Yeah, we're going to talk about homeopathy.
Okay, so homeopathy, for those who don't know, it's actually an energetic medicine. So it's based on the principles of like healing like. And the interesting thing about it is, well, in classical homeopathy, so this has been around a while, but it was usually using one formula, which is made with a physical substance, but diluted so much to where it ends up just containing the energy. And, it really resonates with the body. But the difficult thing with the classical homeopathy, which is why, like, I was never trained in that, because you have to be so very, very specific, like figuring out exactly what you're treating in a person and then like what dilution. So the company that I am working with now, which I absolutely love, is Des Bio, and they brilliantly ended up, it was some PhDs in homeopathy, realizing that this could serve so many more if they combined formulas. So it makes it so much easier for a wellness coach like me to use, or many others. Many people who are in the educational, team at Des Bio were trained as classical homeopathists, but they only really use this now. So let me give you another distinction, and we can definitely.
Maybe give the viewers an example. What is homeopathy? Say for me, my son I think was 5 years old and having like chronic nasal and ear infections, and I just the antibiotics stopped working really, so I switched to a homeopathic MD, and so I understand it a little bit. But for the viewers, can you give us just a general overall? What is homeopathy?
Yeah.
Maybe explain the tech. You explained the technical part, but maybe like a real life example of that. Those antibiotics stopped working. So how would you treat an ear infection?
So from my standpoint, I really want to address as much possible naturally, because anytime you're using something, and there are times for it. So I want to be clear, like, I'm not an MD, so I'm not giving medical advice, but I do have a lot of practical advice, and my choice of practicing is with natural medicine, because so often when you say things like the antibiotic stopped working, because they're not actually dealing with what is causing the problem. Now, they may be necessary in a very time specific kind of, remedy. So I'm not saying never use them, but with homeopathy, you're going in much, much to address the root of the issue, which really all medicine actually does. But the thing about, as I was saying, Des Bio, so there's many different dilutions is what we call them. And so the more diluted a substance is, say that you're treating an ear infection. And so you're going to look at a couple of things. If it's brand new, acute, just came on, then you would go with a less diluted form. That's usually geared toward more of just an acute situation. But when things become chronic, the different dilutions and the more subtle dilutions help deal with chronic issues. For example, I myself am in the midst of doing a homeopathic kit for mold. And so a lot of times we don't know what it is that's taking us out. And so, there's kits for like chronic things like mold or limes or Epstein-Barr. And then there's other remedies that, are like, okay, it's allergy season and I'm going to see if I can, help stave off some of the symptoms. So it's kind of designed to be both, symptom relief while addressing more chronic issues. And so what Does Bio does, it just puts a lot of different dilutions and even different remedies into one formula. It's the thing that's good to know about homeopathy. If your body doesn't need it, it just won't use it. You're not going to get like a side effect from it because it's just working on an energetic level. So it's just a nice thing to weave
So
in
they
with.
dilute it down, so it's really just like the essence of the formula?
Yep, you got it. So it's not like, so take another step into like herbs. So herbs are definitely dealing with more of the material of the plant, where homeopathy, the way they do it is they end up diluting it to where there isn't a physical presence of the substance. So it is energetic. And then there are strengths of energy. And so, why I think this actually works so well with the concept that Ayurveda gave us is, our issues are, physical, mental, emotional, energetic. And so, with these Does Bio formulas, I found that they're really helpful for people in more of a tangible way because it's working with different areas of the body. And so, they do have, for instance, I just shared that I was
I
going
have
through.
one quick question before we move. Is it all plant-based? Is homeopathy all
Not,
plant-based?
no,
All
not
the
all.
Okay, okay,
So it could be like mineral or, some other
okay.
things like that.
But is it organic? Is it
Yeah,
all
there would be no, no
no synthetic
toxic
chemical?
substance at all in
Okay.
these. Yeah. So they're very safe, which is another thing I love about them. And I love like, in an idea. So you were saying that your baby, or your young child had these ear infections and, it's really such a safe, gentle thing that you can use. Gentle doesn't mean not powerful. We don't always need a sledgehammer to get a result. And so you want to look at it as the energetics are addressing there's an intelligence in there that would be more than I could even explain, because there's an intelligence in the universe that I think when we're just more comfortable with realizing we're not just what we see, but there's all kinds of energies and levels in our bodies that might be giving us, I like to call them signals rather than symptoms. So signals of like, hey, I need some help here. I'm having an ear infection, or I'm having some kind of chronic malaise. And, I need to get to the root cause. And so when you're looking at working with homeopathy, the guesswork isn't going to take you out either. You can do some testing, but at the same time, if you're using a remedy that maybe isn't the right exact fit, then your body just won't do
And
anything
are
with it.
all the remedies in like the little tablet forms
No,
or the
Desbio
powder?
uses mostly liquid
Okay.
drops. And so they're very easy to take. And so Desbio, again, this fits so perfectly with Ayurveda. They say you really need the power of 3 to heal. And so what we're working with, I'm going to actually read it so I get it as they say it. But the power of 3 approach is physical support with dietary supplements and energetic support with homeopathic formulas. So what that's saying is that in the physical, the dietary is, it's really clear we need to be eating cleanly, like good organic nutrition, and that's going to vary per person. We don't have to go into that right now. And dietary supplements are going to be like your herbal supplements or, again, natural substances. The homeopathic remedies are addressing much more from the energetic level, and then the, mental and emotional support. So they actually formulate remedies. This is another thing I really love about them, because if you were practicing classical homeopathy, you'd kind of have to really spend a lot of time trying to figure out with the client, if something's not working, is there some stored anger or resentment or shame? And so there's a whole emotional line, that accompanies the Bio formulas. So I was saying I'm working on this mold kit because I was
Oh, I
exposed.
wanted to go back to the mold because so many people have issues with mold. Just share your experience about this mold journey you've been on and
Yeah, and
what
I'm
were
kind
your
of,
physical, emotional, mental, and issues with the
well, I'm
mold.
doing a little self-diagnosing because I'm not big on getting a bunch of tests, because so many times it's like, and I'm going from lived experience. I had uh 2 black mold experiences in my home. And so they were professionally mitigated, but I was exposed. From what I've learned about it, you can be in a whole family and one person could be taken out. So, like 25% of the population does seem to get very sick with mold. And so I did have, like, I'm not sure how much I can attribute. And of course, I look at things as a multi-dimensional experience. So there's stress involved. But what I'm going on is that I know for a fact I had black mold in my home. I did get it mitigated, but I started reacting a lot like, if I hike every day, I love being in nature. And if it had been very moist, like a rainy, kind of muddy trail, I mean, I would end up getting a headache and kind of really fatigued for the next 24 hours. And I was kind of suspecting it and doing a lot of things I think that were keeping me pretty good. But I kind of had this cycling, knock on wood, not really having that part anymore, but the cycling of symptoms that I would just feel off in my body. And it used to manifest through my skin, but I've done so much good work. It's not doing that, but I would still get a symptom. So most recently, I went to 2 very humid locations. I was in Florida and then I was in Cabo, and it was like a terrible kind of allergy. And I realized that there's a lot of mold in those environments. So when I came home, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go all in and do the full mold protocol. So it's months of doing it. I'm only halfway through, but the brilliance of it is it takes the 3 in this kit, like the 3 main mold things that people react to, and all of them I checked the boxes for. So when I was a child, I was allergic to penicillin. They couldn't give it to me. That's a mold. Then, so penicillin is in
Ellen
the
is a
remedies.
mold. Okay.
And black mold is in the remedies, and aspergillus, which I believe is what I was reacting to outside because I got so sensitive to mold. So, but there's all different dilutions because it's going to address the acute symptom and the deep chronic pattern, which is going to go back to me when I was a child. So
What's the emotional frequency of mold? Like, what's the issue, the emotional issue of mold?
So it's interesting because they do pair, I mean, Desbio does pair a remedy with it, and
An emotional remedy or
an
the
emotional remedy. You always want to pair an emotional
right.
remedy, and it doesn't
What is
have to
that?
be what they did. But I actually did a little research and it came up resentment. And they actually had another one with it, and I'm forgetting at the very moment. But I kind of play with all of them. But I looked at a time in my life when, even though I knew resentment was like eating your own poison, I was living with a lot of resentment.
Yeah.
And I was working on it. I definitely was aware of it. I was doing my best not to express it, but it was in me.
Yeah.
So even though I felt, and
And remember being a resentful, that's our victim. We're in the victim role.
yeah. I mean, there's even
Upset
remedies like
about
if you look at
something
the whole,
somebody did something to us rather than for us.
we don't want to have any shame about any, because they have
Right.
rage, they have shame, they have, and all of us have had some of those lower frequencies within us. based on real life experiences. And so, even though on the conscious level, and I would even say somewhat unconscious level or subconscious level, I had dealt with it. But as we know from the work of the great Candice Pert, that there are molecules of emotions in our cells. And so, when you're looking at the homeopathy, again, this stuff could just be living in your cells, that's just been for a lifetime or lifetimes. And so, they do say that there are definitely remedies that emotional remedies that you want to do along with the kit,
And
like
Bio has these, so we'll put the link. I mean, or do you want people, we'll just call
yeah,
you?
reach out to me.
Yeah,
You need to work through a practitioner. They don't
yeah,
just sell to the public because they really
gotcha.
want people to have an education with it, which
Yeah,
makes sense
okay.
because
So
you really
you're trained with the Bio
yes,
remedies and systems and protocols. Yeah,
yeah, and
great.
I like to just combine it with the other things that I work with. So, and it's kind of it goes right hand in hand with their power of 3. So, to me, it's been very exciting to add this into it because a lot of people, for instance, I always from the Ayurvedic principle, like, we need to cleanse and digest before sometimes we can actually get to the root of an issue. And that can be overwhelming for people. So if you come in with these remedies that they're very easy to take, there are some things that you want to be mindful of, like I said, how you're eating and all of that. But it's nothing super like, oh my God, I have to like fast for, a month or anything like that. Not that you would, but you don't have to do anything like that. You kind of work within the way I like to work with people anyway, which is let's clean up your, make sure your diet is serving you, and let's make sure that we have some cleansing. So here is one of my favorite things that Desbio offers and often has taught us as practitioners to work with first. They have a kit that's drainage and detox. So I've been talking drainage and detox with my other work for years, but this is a simple way to very clearly address opening up the drainage systems, because even if you're doing great things, if you're not draining properly, then you're not going to really get the optimal
And when you
benefit.
say draining, is that our lymphatic system?
So it's like lymphatics, it's like there's
Is
3 different things.
digestion included in that?
Yes, like the liver, the kidneys, the lymph, and then on kind of a matrix view. So there's 6 different droppers that you're using and you titrate them. Yeah, or you do them not all on the same day, but you pulse them. And so the other ones are dealing more with like your brain, your spine, and just your whole matrix in your body. So it's
Wow,
really
that one sounds
it
amazing.
is. And so they have
That's the
that.
drainage and detox.
Yeah, and it's such a wonderful way to begin working with people if they're afraid of doing any kind of a detox or anything. So it's more of a way to just start talking to your body, letting your body know we need to open the drain. And I always have said this even before I brought in the homeopathics. It's like if you could be having the most wonderful organic diet, but if you're clogged, as you mentioned, like in your lymph, which I've experienced, or your digestion or your liver, like if you're not able to digest and assimilate, then it's almost like just, you know, putting more stuff in and not allowing the drainage and detox to
So what
happen.
I'm hearing is it's simple. This drainage and detox would be simply a system of liquid drops,
Yes, so that's their drainage.
depending on you would
Yeah, they
test.
have 2 different levels of that, so you can just do that. Say if you're already like, "Okay, I'm really conscious, I know I eat a really clean diet, it's all organic and all that, and I'm mindful of, like, making sure I have kind of the main minerals and all that," then fine, but some people aren't. So they have, in addition to that, for people who want the nutritional support, they call it the Omni Cleanse Kit. So it comes with what I just spoke about, the homeopathic remedies and there's a powder that has it's more nutritional based, so there we are in the physical support. So it's not homeopathic, it's something that you can put in water or in a smoothie and, it tastes fine and you drink that. And then there's one capsule, and the only reason they broke the capsule out is because it doesn't taste good and they didn't want to ruin the taste of the other one. And that has the more bitters that are going to directly target our liver because everybody's liver, I think, nowadays needs love and support, with the herbs. So that is something that I often also recommend to people. You could just start with the whole kit. And then, you can actually repeat doing the drainage detox, a couple of times a year. Or if someone's really needing it, they could repeat it again, you know, right after they finish the first kit. But that's more of a
That sounds
case.
so much easier than the olive oil and the lemons, chugging the
Yeah,
jar that we used
yeah,
to
I
do.
do that too. But yeah, and
I'd
there's so
rather
many,
use the drops.
yeah, and I'm very big on what is doable for someone because, if it's not doable, someone's not going to do it. And so
I haven't done one of those with the olive oil and the lemon in, like, since 2004. It's not doable for me. You need your
yeah,
protocol of the drops and the 1 pill, some drops.
yeah, it's not something everybody wants to actually do. And I always find ways to actually, like, instead of doing that, what you're talking about, what Stacy's talking about is the big, liver flush, which is, not the
And
easiest thing
gallbladder,
to do.
right? Liver and gallbladder.
Liver and gallbladder, yes. Yeah.
What was it? It's olive oil, the
Well, so
lemon.
you have like a week of preparation, but then the day of, it's like a 24-hour thing. You're not going to have any fat the day of. You're going to stop eating at noon, and then you take up some salts to get those drainage pathways open. So some people and it's, it's hard to drink
That's
that
right,
stuff.
Epsom salts. That didn't bother me so much, it was chugging that jar
And
of.
then yeah, so and then it's very specific and I love it because it
Yeah,
is.
laying on my side all night, sleep on the
Well,
one
you
side.
you chug a combination of olive oil and grapefruit juice, and it's a large amount.
Yes, it
And
was a
yeah, and you
large
do it at
amount.
a specific time, you lay on
Yes.
your right side. It's, like, very specific, and, you can feel pretty nauseous during the night, but it works.
It did. I mean, I didn't get nauseous, but I felt cleansed the next day, but it's just, yeah, chugging that, getting that, the Epsom salts and then the olive oil.
Yeah.
J
Yeah, so this is not hard like that. You have
Yeah,
to have, you wanna be, regimented in the if you want the best result to, like, stay on it, like, do what you're supposed to do each day, which vials to take on which day, but then other times maybe someone, doesn't feel like there's something that deep that they want to address, so you could just, like, do it as a cleanse, and then maybe bring in a few other remedies, for maybe some things that you feel like you're getting signals about, but it doesn't have to be a big long, month long process. But I think it's nice to just have the emotional remedies on hand. I one that I've definitely recommended to a lot of people has been their grief remedy because people suffer loss and then they don't really know how to grieve and there's not one way. So the homeopathic remedy, it's not going to make you grieve in a certain way. It's going to support you, to do whatever you need to do to process that grief so you
oh,
don't.
that's amazing one. What about loneliness, which I think is epidemic?
It
Loneliness
is.
is
That there is a remedy, I believe that this what because they recently changed the name, but I believe it's called Connection, and it is to help with just, more intimate relationships, like if
yeah,
there's.
I was when I brought up loneliness and just a few women with a few women, and they started talking about community as a remedy. But I said, no, no, no. You can be in a room of 50 people and be super
100%.
lonely. You can be with three great girlfriends, and for a moment, you felt connection. But when you leave, you're alone again. So it's that inside
Yeah, it's
job.
something
It's
deep
the
inside.
inside job. And it took a long, long time for me to, get that
Yeah.
inner connection.
Mhm. And that's you're bringing up a great point, Stacy, because I've experienced this and I know many others have. You can be in a relationship with someone and feel
That
very
too.
lonely,
Yeah,
right?
and blame them because you feel lonely.
Well, or just being aware that that's not solving your problem.
No, and
But,
it's not their responsibility.
right, yeah. But,
No
you
one's
also
responsibility, yeah.
you wanna tune into yourself, like, why is this, why am I experiencing this? So, we always wanna take into account our emotions when we're healing physically, because that's another thing that does why Does Bio likes to bring in the emotional support, because sometimes some of the, doctors who have worked with the company a long time have shared that they'll get progress with someone and then there seems to be a block. And the stored emotion can be the block. So then they go in and they're like, okay, let's address the mental emotional field and then bring this back in. And then their bodies can go through whatever healing process it needs to go. So, the emotions should not be dismissed as like an afterthought. Like, let me deal with the
No,
physical thing.
they're the energy driving, yeah,
And
they're the driving.
Ayurveda very clearly says that, almost all disease begins in the mind. So we have a feeling and that turns into an emotion. There's a story with the emotion and then
The
that
thought
becomes,
the thought creates the feeling, then
yeah, the thought,
it's
the
negative.
feeling, the emotion, the action, and then you get your experience. So these remedies are a really lovely way to just like, if you kind of, here's something. If someone came and they know that they have some fatty liver, which a lot of people do just from stress of life or just from being exposed to, the 80 plus thousand chemicals that are in our environment now that weren't here 100 years ago, like our livers have to work so hard. So, that kit that I'm talking about is helpful in like starting to allow that process to move. But an emotional remedy might be addressing, is that liver stagnation manifesting in rage and anger? Or is it manifesting so you look at kind of the organ systems and what emotions go with them. So if someone's coming to me and they're saying that they feel a lot of frustration, irritability, and anger and heat. Ayurveda would say, okay, that's a pitta condition. And the homeopathy would say, maybe we can bring in the emotional remedy of rage to just help move that out, the energy of the emotion out and be dealt with. So, the emotional, there's so many things I love about working, weaving the homeopathy in. And, I don't do it exclusively with homeopathy because I do think there's so many other levels that it becomes fun to like, know you're caring for yourself in a very multi-level way. But, for what we're talking about today, it's like kind of a new and exciting remedy, I guess, to bring into when working with someone.
Is it and did you say there is a kit for loneliness? You have a remedy kit
Well, there is a remedy. I mean, there's a lot of emotional remedies, but the one that I was referring to is the connection one because it's
connection, right? Because that is
yeah,
the remedy for not
yeah,
outer connection, but inner connection.
just help whatever is happening in your field to process. So, yeah,
Or maybe, yeah, and the ability to connect with others. I guess, yeah, that's a complex topic.
I mean, the homeopathy, I think, is a way that you don't have to try to figure it out as much as it works through. I believe it helps present more in a more clear way for you to process, because we can get too much in our minds often. And so if we just like invite in the energy and just see, what it's bringing up for us and dealing with it. And, working with someone to help you, like say, if you are going through maybe a connection issue or a rage issue, like help working with someone is also helpful. But the homeopathy is, I guess what I think of is it's just going deep in and helping you deal with the roots of it. And they even have they do have, I think what is called it's a mental emotional, I want to say the other word is miasm, but it is a trio of things to help process mentally our thoughts, our emotions, and our ancestral inheritances that are in that
Our
field.
generational wounds and yeah. Okay, well, let's wrap up. I want to ask you to go into one more time quickly. You mentioned the power of three in homeopathy. Can you review that for us?
Absolutely. So
What
it's
you mean
looking
by the power of three?
the power of a three approach: physical support with dietary supplements. So that's going to be your food and your diet. Energetic support with homeopathic formulas, which is what we've been talking about. And then
Gotcha.
specific mental, emotional support remedies. So it's really showing that that part of the trio is very, very important to address along with what you're eating and the energy support with the homeopathy.
Perfect. Thank you. That
You're
was
welcome.
wonderful.
Well, so fun to talk about this with you, and thank you
Yeah.
so much, Stacy, for inviting me back again.
Oh, yeah. We'll have you back as every month, and it'll just be the Candice Claire show
Love
on
it.
Ayurveda and health and wellness, your health and wellness coaching. It's wonderful. Everyone, check the links below to reach out to Candice on Ayurvedic and homeopathic support. And thank you so much. And please, everyone, subscribe, share this video, watch the reels, share those with friends. I think everyone likes to get the short clips and keep tuning into Soulstream Media. We want this to be the #1 platform on the planet for healing and transformation. And we're going to continue to have amazing teachers on like Candace. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Bye.